The Velkari didn't believe in heroes. They believed in duty, in honor measured by combat prowess, and in the cold calculus of survival. Emotions were weakness. Sacrifice for strangers was insanity. Then they met Thane. Hayes pressed her palm against the medical pod's transparent surface, watching the readouts flicker in the dim light of the recovery bay. Inside, Thane lay motionless, his chest rising and falling with mechanical precision as the alien technology worked to repair what should have been fatal wounds. "He should be dead," she whispered, not for the first time. Commander Zelthar stood beside her, his forearms crossed in a posture that suggested both respect and confusion. The Velkari warrior's chitinous face was unreadable, but his voice carried an edge of something Hayes had never heard from his species before. Uncertainty. "Your companion did something we believed impossible," Zelthar said. "He didn't just survive 8 honor blades. He chose to receive them." Hayes remembered the footage she'd watched a dozen times now. The marketplace on Velkar Prime, crowded with aliens of 100 species. Thane walking beside her, laughing at some joke she'd made about the local cuisine. Then the screaming. The Kresh assassins had materialized from the crowd like nightmare incarnate, their ceremonial blades already wet with the blood of Velkari civilians. Their target had been clear: the child of Ambassador Relmoth playing near a fountain while his guards were distracted by a coordinated explosion 3 streets away. The Velkari were fast. The Kresh were faster. But Thane had been closest. Hayes hadn't even seen him move. One moment he was beside her. The next he was diving between the killers and the child, his body becoming a shield of flesh and bone. The first blade caught him in the shoulder, the second in his side. He'd twisted, protecting the small Velkari youngling even as the third and fourth blades found his back. The assassins had been so surprised by the human's intervention that they'd hesitated. It was all the time the Velkari guards needed. The Kresh were neutralized within seconds, but the damage was done. Thane had collapsed. The child still clutched safely beneath him, 8 alien blades protruding from his body at angles that should have pierced every vital organ. He'd looked up at Hayes with blood on his lips and smiled. "Kid, okay?" he'd managed to ask before losing consciousness. "The physicians say the blades missed his heart by millimeters," Zelthar continued, pulling Hayes back to the present. "Multiple organs perforated. Blood loss that would kill 3 Velkari warriors. And yet when they stabilized him, his first words were to ask if the child survived." Hayes smiled despite the tears threatening to fall. "That's Thane. Idiot never learned to think about himself first. We do not understand this." Zelthar's voice was quieter now. "He had no duty to our people, no honor bond to the child, no tactical reason to sacrifice himself. His death would have accomplished nothing except preserving 1 Velkari youngling. The mathematics of survival dictated he should have fled." "Humans don't always do math," Hayes replied. "Sometimes we just do what's right." The door to the recovery bay hissed open and Hayes turned to see a procession entering. Ambassador Relmoth led them, his ceremonial armor polished to a mirror shine. Behind him came warriors, dozens of them, each bearing the marks of the Velkari elite guard. Their weapons were sheathed, but their presence was overwhelming. Hayes's hand instinctively moved to her sidearm, but Zelthar placed one of his arms on her shoulder. "Peace, human Hayes. They come to honor, not harm." The procession arranged itself in precise formation around the medical pod. The youngling, fully recovered from his trauma, stood beside his father, his large eyes fixed on Thane's sleeping form. Ambassador Relmoth stepped forward, his voice resonating through the chamber. "When the Velkari first ventured into the stars, we believed strength was the only currency that mattered. We built our civilization on the principle that only the strong deserve to survive, and that sacrifice for the weak was foolishness." He paused, looking at each of his warriors in turn. "We were wrong." A murmur rippled through the assembled guards, shock in a species that rarely showed emotion. This human Thane taught us something our 1,000-year empire had forgotten. That true strength isn't measured in how well you fight, but in what you're willing to fight for. He owes us nothing. We are strangers from a cold species that values honor over compassion, yet he gave everything to save my son. The ambassador placed his hand on the medical pod. When he wakes, he will find he is no longer a stranger. The Velkari Empire recognizes him as bloodkin, the highest honor we can bestow. Every warrior here has sworn an oath. Thane's life is now their life. His enemies are now our enemies. His battles are now our battles. Hayes felt something shift in the room, a weight of commitment that transcended species and culture. We do not know if humans often act this way, Relmoth continued, but if they do, then perhaps the galaxy has underestimated your kind. Perhaps we have all underestimated what it means to be truly brave. Inside the pod, Thane's eyes flickered open. He looked confused for a moment, taking in the assembled warriors, the formal ceremony, the gravity of the moment. Then he saw the child, safe and smiling, and his expression softened. "Hey," he croaked, his voice weak but amused. "Did I miss something important?" Hayes laughed through her tears. "Yeah, you idiot. You just became the most protected human in the galaxy." Thane tried to sit up, winced, and settled back. "Cool, can someone get me a sandwich?" "I'm starving." The Velkari warriors stood in stunned silence for a moment. Then impossibly Zelthar began to laugh, a clicking, chittering sound that spoke of genuine mirth. "Humans," he said, shaking his head. "The galaxy will never be the same." As medical staff rushed to attend to their newly awakened patient, Hayes watched the elite warriors take positions around the room, their oath already in effect. Thane had stumbled into heroism the way he stumbled into everything, without thinking, without hesitation, simply because someone needed help. It was the most human thing possible, and it had just changed everything.